I just find it distasteful when our Jewish community defend Israel, or when anybody, for that matter, Christian or whoever you might be, atheist, you defend the oppressor in light of or instead of defending the oppressed. How is that just? How is that fair? You know, if these were white Christians living in Palestine and Israel was doing this to them, the world would not be quiet. But because they are Arab, they look brown, okay, they have a lot of Muslims in there, and there's a minority of Christians in there, it's okay. Because these are the fanatic Arabs, these are the crazy Arabs, these are the crazy brown people.
Nobody call them fanatic.
That's what it is.
Absolutely.
That's what it is.
Call them fanatic Arabs, sir.
What, in Israel? In Israel,
so my family lives in Israel. My family
the
lives
rhetoric,
in Israel.
the Israel rhetoric is that these Arabs are bloodthirsty killers.
Not true.
Go on YouTube. Look at all the social experiments.
So your references are YouTube?
Social experiments.
So you're educating
when they ask the
yourself
public.
what, YouTube?
No.
Social experiments.
I'm saying that's. I'm saying when you look at Israeli politicians, what they speak about the Palestinian people, what do they say about them?
Agreed.
Right.
Some of them are racist. Some of them are racist.
Very racist, openly.
I agree with you, but the problem, the issue that I have, I'm a Jewish guy. Yeah?
Right.
My family lives in Israel. I grew up in France. I live in Britain for the past 10 years.
Right.
I'm like this guy, and you didn't give him really a chance to express himself. He really comes from a place of peace.
He expressed himself a lot.
He comes from a place of peace. Like he's one of those very rare young Jews that come, and that actually comes from a place where he's trying to unite people from both sides, as opposed to trying to divide. The way you paint the argument is literally white or black. One side is white, and the other side is a little bit more black. Is a little bit more at fault here, and at blame for what's going on. I agree with you. There's a suffering on the Palestinian side. I agree with you. There is a disproportionate force. I agree. The problem is that you decontextualize everything, and you're not nuancing your argument. Your argument is Palestinians are white and Israel are black.
I'm not saying that.
Israel are not white.
I didn't say that.
I'm telling you the first.
I didn't say that.
I think
You're strawmanning my argument.
I'm
not saying that.
Have you not?
No. Did I disagree that rockets are fired into Israel?
But why did you?
Did I disagree that?
You compared the rocket to 3 years old. You said it's like 3 years old going into a ring with Mike Tyson.
That's not me. That's Israel doing it.
Does the 3 years old have full fast whatever rockets or whatever fast rockets?
The Israeli Defense Authority, the Israeli Defense themselves, they laugh at these rockets. These rockets have no guidance system. They have no warhead. They are glorified fireworks. This is what the Israelis say. They are nothing but glorified fireworks. You know it and I know it. So what's the argument?
They're not necessarily glorified fireworks. People died.
People
died. Last war.
You say you're a Jew, right?
I'm a Jewish guy.
Right. Okay. I'm Muslim, right? No. Okay. You know and I know that these are not sophisticated armaments of the modern battlefield. These are nothing but glorified fireworks.
They're not sophisticated. That's fair enough.
There's no warhead.
Doesn't mean you need to diminish the impact that they have.
No.
Monsieur,
No.
On peut pas avoir 4 conversations à la fois.
But there's an issue here. It's not about diminishing, but it's about at least recognizing what it is. They are glorified fireworks that at best damage 1 or 2 homes, literally. And as a consequence, and I would hope as a Jew you would see this as an injustice, that the bulldozers are operating 24 hours a day in response, and they are flattening 18,000 homes of the Palestinian people. That's not right, brother.
And even the patriotic
it's not right.
Stopping 90% of the
No. In fact, a lot of them make it into Israel because they can't even reach the cities. They can't reach any areas where you could even commit damage. So Israel basically ignores those. And the ones that it feels are going to come, because I think the Patriot missile costs $1 million per missile, Israel, being careful and prudent, and it should be, it doesn't want to waste those missiles. So it only knocks out what it sees as a threat. But the reality here is that you have a knight in shining armor with a big shield, with a massive sword, and on the other side you have a man holding a stick. And he wants me to say that this is a war.
You just said it was a glorified
That this is a
firewall.
battle.
Hold on, we just admitted
No,
rocket on the other side.
this is not a battle.
And
It's
the
not a war.
glorified, and so where are you painting now once again the idea? You're just generalizing them as being those people who have for sole mindset and purpose in their life to basically kick as many Palestinians as you can from
there is a systematic, and you can see this in reality. You don't have to believe what I'm saying. There is a systematic from day one intention to get rid of the Palestinian people and to replace it with a Jewish people, a Jewish state.
Is it institutional, or does that come from the population?
It comes from institution. And it is backed by many of the population because they vote in right-wing governments. Because they vote in right-wing extremist parties.
Do you know what happened the last couple of
I think
elections?
Sharon was an extremist and a murderer, quite frankly, and they voted him in.
Do you know the division that existed the last election? How many different?
Yeah, because there was so many. But that was because of Netanyahu being so corrupt. The people were so dissatisfied with the level of corruption.
Agreed.
So what did? They wanted to punish him, and so as a consequence, many Jews decided that they weren't going to vote for Netanyahu, and they voted here, there, just to punish the government.
They actually voted mostly for Netanyahu. He had the most seats at the Knesset, but it's because they did a coalition on the other side to get rid of Netanyahu, which is corrupt. I agree with you. I'm not. You say
He's corrupt, right? He was corrupt.
I agree with you on many things. On many things, I think he's very, very corrupt. But what happened is that there was a coalition on the other side whose sole and only purpose was to get him off. My point, what I'm trying to say, and it's very simple. I'm not as educated as him, neither as you. You seem to be very educated anyway. But it's the Israeli population, the Jewish population, is a very segmented population with different mindsets, different origin, different opinions.
I don't deny that.
So wait, but you're unifying them under one sole and unique opinion.
No.
That's what. No.
I said when I say the word
respectfully.
when I say the word Israel, I'm referring to the Israeli government and those that support that government. I'm not saying every Jew, because did you know? I know that many of the peace advocates for the Palestinian people are Jews.
Give me a name.
Many, B'Tselem, well-known organization. It's a Jewish organization for the protection of the oppression of the Palestinian people.
Regarded as very one-sided by many
even in
Jews.
England, there are many outspoken Jews, many, okay, who are not happy with what Israel is doing, and they speak out openly about it. So there are very many, and that's why I don't want this discussion to become a Jewish-Muslim discussion. I don't want it to be about Judaism and Islam. This discussion, there are many good Jews, many good Arabs who want peace. And there are people on both sides. And unfortunately, on Israel, the last 70 or 80 years, virtually everyone they voted in wants to simply increase the settlements, take away the Palestinian land, which are illegal under international law, and they just keep expanding and they keep going. And they don't care what the world says. The world says one thing, and they say, whatever, we'll do what we want to do.
So how do you make the things better? Tell me.
How you make things better is the first thing you do. Just like an alcoholic, he has to first stand up and say, my name is John, and I am an alcoholic. He has to accept that he has a problem. Until you accept you have a problem, you will never have a solution. Israel and the Jewish people who have supported Israel, they need to stand up and they say, look, what happened to the Palestinian people was a great injustice. We recognize it as an injustice. Now, you are our cousins. You Arabs are our cousins. Let us cousins sit down and let's come to some solution where you are compensated for the losses that you've had. Maybe we give you some of the land or much of the land or we try to live in harmony together. But if you don't even recognize there's a problem, how can you have a solution? You can't have a solution. And I'm sorry to say, and I would hope, watch this debate with Professor Norman Finkelstein and Alan Dershowitz. Alan Dershowitz is a Harvard law professor. Professor Norman Finkelstein is also from father and mother were both in concentration camps. He's an ethnic Jew. They have a debate. Why I keep bringing up this debate is because they covered many territories that we discussed with the brother. I forget his name now. Irian, yes, Irian. Many of these discussions were brought up by Alan Dershowitz and Professor Norman Finkelstein, meticulously, with evidence, completely overturns those arguments. So when Israel claims we don't attack civilians, he brings out reports where people in wheelchairs with a white flag are being shot by the IDF. You know, we can't just ignore these things.
Watch it. I never watch it. I'll watch it.
I would hope you watch it, honestly.
I'll watch it.
And you know, take my number, and if we want to have a coffee together, as a Jew, as a Muslim, I'll be happy to, come meet you and have a coffee with you and discuss things further. Because I think this is what's positive. Why I'm so passionate about this subject, not because I hate Jews, because as a Muslim, we're not supposed to hate anybody. We hate the action, we hate what they do, maybe yes, but we don't hate people. And we don't put people together in one group and say that we hate them. This is tribalism, this is racism, this is fascism. And the Prophet ﷺ came to destroy this. So we're not here to do hate. But why I'm so passionate is that those people don't have a voice. The Palestinian people don't have a voice.
Really?
International media, and the suppression, just because something is reported a lot.
Have a voice if it's the most reported conflict in the world.
Now look at Joseph's argument. What a childish argument.
No, I'm just saying they've got a voice.
How can somebody have a voice, logically, just because of the consequence of it being reported a lot?
Well, that's a voice.
No, you see, you're very foolish, Joseph.
I know, I'm very
foolish.
You're right.
Because it depends on who controls the voice.
So who
controls whose voice is heard?
The overwhelming majority of the media is negative to Israel.
Well, Joseph, the point here is this. If you have something which is manifestly and evidentially true, no matter how much you try to suppress it, the evidence comes out.
So we agree they have a voice.
When I say they have no voice, is because many times for Palestinian people, they don't have they don't have the level of sophistication of media, monetary backing, and reach that lobbyists have.
Riddle me this.
That lobbyists have in Israel that extend that reach out into the international community. You're well aware of this, so please don't play dumb on this.
So let's just.
And that makes a difference. Now, when Murdoch, who owns the Sun newspaper and used to own Sky, I think he owns less of it now. He owns very right-wing media in America like Fox News and in Australia. Okay, when he says I'm a friend of Israel, what does that mean? What does that mean? What do you do for a friend? You look after your friend. You do what's right for your friend. You don't care so much about the other side. And when you have an editorial policy to only bring in people that will agree or go with the party line or the media line that you wish to portray, that's a very powerful thing. So no, they don't have the voice that the Jews have, the Israelis have.
Okay, so
it's not equal. It's not equal.
Let's just test that. One thing. I just wait a patient. Let me please respond. So, if we look at every single mechanism, every system for amplification of voices, whether it's the media, whether it's human rights organizations, whether it's the United Nations, all of them are amplifying the Palestinians' voice. So let's take the United Nations. There have been more critical resolutions of Israel than all of the rest of the countries combined. Hear me out. Let me finish. I didn't interrupt you.
Don't make several points. Make one point. Let's deal with that one point. It makes a more meaningful discussion.
Let me finish it. We'll stay. Don't worry. We're staying on the point. There have been more critical resolutions of Israel than every other country in the world combined. I'll finish and then you can respond. When you compare that to what happened in Syria, 500,000 dead in a few years, Iraq 1 million dead, Rwandan genocide, what's happening with the Uyghurs, North Korea, you name the nation, you add those millions of people that have been slaughtered together, and there have been more critical resolutions at the United Nations of one country.
Let him finish.
However you measure that crime, whether it's death tolls, whether it's oppression of people, whatever, there are nations which do almost exponentially worse crimes than what you would accuse Israel of doing. So you want to count death tolls? He already gave you that.
Don't switch the argument. Let's stick to that argument.
So that is
Let me deal with that. Let me deal with that.
United Nations.
Let me deal with that. Okay. So now this is Joseph's, respectfully I would say, weakness in his argument.
Okay.
Okay. So he is saying that there's been a lot more reporting about the Palestinian conflict.
Critical
reporting. And in particular, he's saying there's far more United Nations resolutions passed against Israel. First of all, I would say, okay, well, why is that?
And I would say
that's because Israel's being a very naughty boy.
No, I would say it's because nations vote in accordance with their foreign policy. And so it's in the nation's interest.
Joseph, I didn't interrupt you.
You asked the question.
No, I didn't interrupt you.
It was a rhetorical question. Sorry.
Yes, it was a rhetorical question. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, this conflict has been going on for over 70 years. So cumulatively, you would expect there to be a lot more reporting. So it doesn't follow that just because there's less reporting in Rwanda, which lasted for what, about 8 months?
Pakistan,
9 months?
It's gone on a year longer.
Let's not list things as long as your arm.
That's relevant.
Let's deal with your...
Don't respond to my argument. Don't refute
now,
me.
Joseph's interrupting me.
Sorry.
Joseph's trying to do what Joseph always does, which is shotgunning. So what Joseph does is he tries to you throw in a whole... I only need to give you one example, and your argument is defeated. Because your argument is that they do have a voice. I'm telling you that when you have a military power that subjugates and oppresses a people, that controls the internet, that controls the media, that controls who can enter and who cannot exit, what reporters are even allowed and not allowed, then you can't say that there is some equality in terms of raising your awareness or raising your voice. It simply is not logical or rational for you to argue in that way. Now the point here is this, Joseph, and I asked you the question because the other brother, Eliran,
he ran away.
Eliran could not answer. Is human rights, Amnesty International, the United Nations, and the global community all wrong when they say that Israel routinely commits war crimes on the Palestinian people?